Welcome to the program. This is Footprints. Before I introduce the man of the moment, let's watch this video. My name is Attah-Mensah.
From a humble beginning in Sekondi, Takoradi, the man popularly known as the Emperor of Radio, Mike Eghan, started his career as a banker and transitioned into broadcasting, working with the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation, GBC, and the British Broadcasting Corporation, BBC. Mike Eghan became a household name in broadcasting, both within Ghana and Africa as a whole. His love for DJing and his unique presentation style gave him an opportunity to host great events such as Soul to Soul, which had superstars such as Tina Turner. Mike Eghan will tell the rest of his story on Footprints now.
So, Uncle Mike, your early days, how would you describe your early days? Schooling, where in Accra, Takoradi?
Well, as I stated in my book, which I launched a couple of days back, I stated that I was born, bred and baked in Sekondi, Takoradi.
Wow.
The only twin city in Africa, of which I'm very proud of. Well, fortunately or unfortunately, I didn't have university education.
Okay.
From Fijai, my father got me employed at Barclays Bank, DCO.
Oh.
He wanted me to be a banker.
A banker.
So because of his influence, he was able to get me employed at Barclays Bank. So from secondary school, he got me a job. Mm-hmm. And I worked at Barclays Bank for, I think, 3 years. Mm-hmm. And then I got this appointment with broadcasting, which is another story.
Yeah.
If time will permit, we'll go into that.
Of course. So your early days, you saw yourself getting into the banks, Barclays Bank, yes. Also in Sekondi.
In Sekondi.
Okay, yeah, even that, you'll be the man about town, young man, handsome and.
Handsome, I don't know, but I was a young man.
It is said. Now, in your early days in Sekondi, which as we speak now would be in the 50s.
Yes. In
50s. Do you remember any notable names that people who are still around?
Yeah, I mentioned to you earlier, lawyer Ebenezer, who was a West Indian.
They're still around?
No, he is not around.
Okay.
Most of the people that I knew, the grown-ups, are all.
By younger people?
Younger people, I can talk about the Juras. Mm-hmm. Jura is the son of a prominent Ghanaian lawyer. Mm. The Blaze, the Awona Williams, whose son was George B. Williams, who was an actor he passed on to.
That's correct.
And quite a few of them.
Okay.
Why did I think?
Yeah.
He was from part of Sekondi known as British Sekondi, Isikado.
And you're talking about Nana Kobnan Ketia, who's currently the chief.
No,
or the
that's his uncle.
Oh, okay.
Nana Kobnan Ketia, the chief now at Isikado, is the nephew of Nana Kobnan Ketia, who was a seasoned politician and one of the pioneers of our freedom, our independence struggle.
So those were some of the. So then, the transition into broadcasting. So one day, did you apply or you were handpicked?
I didn't apply to be a broadcaster. I was offered the opportunity to be a broadcaster.
Were you emceeing or doing any hosting before then?
I got a habit of listening to radio, BBC, a lot. In those days, it was known as the rediffusion box.
Yes.
And
yeah.
And my father.
That's the brown one.
Yes.
Okay.
Brown one with a little hole in front.
Some nets.
That's right.
Yeah.
And my father would always listen to the news and sports commentary. He never played cricket. He played tennis, but he was an addict of cricket. And I remember BBC giving me a gift of a cricket book, poster from UK, and we treasured that.
Right.
And perhaps maybe it's not appropriate, but it just came to my mind that my father was given an OBE, MBE,
oh, really?
Member of the British Empire in 1952.
He must have made a real impact on these Europeans.
He was known as Aban Bobaka.
Okay, so somebody who was efficient in managing the government purse.
He is the epitome of patriotism.
Right.
He would not allow any of his staff to do anything that would cost the government any expense. For example, one of the things they did was when the Europeans arrived in the country, Gold Coast, he was to arrange, those days they usually came by boat at Takoradi Harbour, and they would be transported from Takoradi to Accra and to their various stations by Adra Brothers. That is the most reliable transport system that we had between Sekondi, Takoradi and Accra. And my father was responsible for their arrangement. Because of that, I got to know a lot about music and the artists. I will listen to Edmundo Ross and his band, Geraldo and his orchestra, Victor Sylvester, Ray Ellington, and these were the kind of music that I was listening to, and it got me interested. But so I got equally interested in listening to Radio Ghana.
Okay.
And one of the people that I listened to a lot was Gilbert Addy, who is the father of Ken Addy of
Joy.
Yeah,
Ken Addy, yeah.
And he was presenting jazz music programs.
Oh, the father?
The father was.
No wonder Ken is so good at it.
And his father was the first sports commentator that Ghana had.
Wow.
Before Festus Zadai and Joe Latte and the rest of them. And I used to listen to him a lot. So I got interested in radio. But one day I was listening to radio and I heard a guitar club, which is a group of musicians playing strictly jazz music. And there wasn't any wind instrument. It was guitar, keyboard, guitar, bass guitar, piano, and drums. There was one in Accra Guitar Club, led by Mr. Rafquist. He's still alive. And then another one in Kumasi, led by Pop Hughes. He was a saxophonist, but he got a guitar club. But I also knew from my interaction with musicians that in Sekondi Takoradi that we had the two guitarists that were the best in Ghana, in my estimation. So I contacted these two guitarists, Bebop Agri, who is better known as Kwesi Agri, and Tricky Johnson, that whether we should form a guitar club in Sekondi Takoradi. They agreed. So I sponsored this group of 5 musicians, and I wrote to Mr. Lee Rabi Williams that I have set up. We have a guitar club in Takoradi.
In Accra.
In Accra.
Rabi Williams in Accra.
Yeah, but he used to come to Sekondi Takoradi to record Radio Dance Time.
Okay.
So I wrote to him that we have this group in Takoradi, and I would like him to come and audition, and maybe if they are qualified, he can record them. He came and instantly recorded them, and the music was played, and it was fairly successful and very well received. The following month, Leo Rabi Williams came to Takoradi to record Radio Dance Time. And fortunately for me, and unfortunately for him, the regular MC that he used had traveled out of Takoradi, so he needed someone to step in for him. And he called me because of my association with the guitar club, whether I would like to MC. And I readily agreed. Let me continue, let me digress a little bit. The guitar club that was recorded, each member was paid 5 guineas, £5, and I could remember, I can see in my mind's eye, the check that was written to them, £5, 5 shillings. And I was given not even a peswa. But it didn't deter me, because money was not my motivation to set up that, because I sponsored them, hired instruments for them, gave them refreshment, and paid their transportation to come to the rehearsals. But it didn't bother me. So back to where I was. Leo Rabi Williams asked me whether I could MC for the program that night. With that hesitation, I said I would. But then I said to myself, but can I do it? I've never done it in my life. Can I do it? But I tried to cast my mind back to the Radio Dance Time that I've heard on radio. And I realized that the MCs for the program made the program popular by describing verbally the scene of the dance hall. Because a live live band with a live audience dancing. So for me to feel comfortable, I went to the beach. We were living close to the beach and rehearsed, shouting to the waves. This is radio dance time, coming to you from Takoradi, what was it, Venice Hall. And my name is Mike. I think I called myself Henry Michael Eghan then. That was the name given to me. But I called my full name and made noise about what I would like to describe. So it was recorded that 2 days later, played on national radio, and it was so exciting for me to hear my voice on radio.
It was a big thing.
Yes, thanks. So Leo Rabi Williams invited me to come to Accra to work on radio. Without thinking about it, I accepted the offer. He called me in the morning and offered me that job, and I accepted it. Now my difficulty was, how do I convince my father to release me to go to broadcasting? But mothers are sweet people. No doubt Victor Wyfer wrote the song Sweet Mother. I went and told my mother about it and my desire to come to Accra. And she cooperated with me and said, yes, you can go.
But at this time, you are still working?
I was working at the bank. She encouraged me, but then how do we break the news to the old man? However, I set up the next day and came to Accra. Went to Broadcasting House, met with Mr. Leo Rabi Williams. He welcomed me and said, tonight I want you to go and record radio dance time at Bubuashi. Gave me a stopwatch. I have never seen a stopwatch in my life. From the bank to radio and a stopwatch.
At this time, you hadn't told your father?
I hadn't told my father. So 3 days later, my uncle comes from Takoradi to say that your daddy said I should send you to Takoradi. He said I should hold you by the hand and bring you back. And I had to comply. Went back, and my father took me the next morning to Barclays Bank headquarters in Takoradi to appeal to the manager, Mr. Every, to re-employ me. He looked at him and said, I've watched your son. Anytime that the office has any entertainment, and he seems to be the one putting life into the place. So maybe his forte is in broadcasting. I'll let him go. If after 6 months he's not comfortable, he should come back, I will employ him. And my father, as I said, will worship the white man religiously. He couldn't say no. So he allowed me and agreed that I should come to Accra, try my hand at broadcasting, and if it didn't work, I could go back. So that was my chance to come into broadcasting.
Wow.
Thanks to Leo Rabi Williams.
Yeah, Leo Rabi Williams,
yes.
right.
He was head of entertainment in broadcasting.
In broadcasting.
In the 60s.
Wow.
And this is 1961.
Wow. So 1961 is when you first started broadcasting
yes.
at the GBC.
And my closest friend and buddy was David Labi, who unfortunately, may he rest in peace, passed away a year
ago, a year and a bit, yes.
A year this month, August.
Oh yeah, they did the 1 year not too long ago. Yeah.
We were the two people known as the Siamese twins, because anywhere you saw David, you would see me. And anywhere you saw me, you would see David. Even our scooters were identical, red and white.
Wow. And we are told that you two used to dress very well.
Yes, we both like fashion.
Yes.
And was for
you are the standard.
Well, we were trying to.
Okay, so you're watching Footprints on Citi TV. My name is Samuel Attah-Mensah, and today I am talking to Mike Eghan, Uncle Mike, we call him. And so far he's taken us through the early days from school up until when he entered the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation. And well, we'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll delve into his years at GBC, and we are told he also worked with the British Broadcasting Corporation for some time before finally coming back to Ghana. Stay tuned. This is Footprint. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Footprint, and I'm here with Uncle Mike Eghan, and now we are at GBC. Uncle Mike is now, did you call yourself a DJ or a presenter or a broadcaster? Simply?
DJ.
A DJ at the time.
In those days, yeah.
And it was big.
Yes.
It was big, early 60s.
Yes.
Which time Prime Minister Nkrumah was our head of state. Is that correct?
Yes.
Good. So this is 4 years after independence.
Yes.
So GBC was the mighty one.
Yeah, Nkrumah understood and appreciated the value of media and what it does. And so he gave a lot of attention to GBC.
As in developing?
As in developing country. And this is where, again, I take a lot of pride in saying that we had the opportunity to be part of the building of helping the freedom fighters for the liberation, total liberation of Africa. Nkrumah, there's a story about after setting up the television station by some Canadians, by a Canadian company, he asked them to give me a feasibility study of a radio station to serve West Africa. So at the presentation of the feasibility, I'm told that when they finished, they asked them how much would it cost. They gave him the figure, said, double the figure. I want to reach the world. And I take a lot of pride and honor that as young as I was, my voice could be heard as far distant as Australia. Because I had a letter from an Australian listener who had heard GBC, West African Service, in Australia playing high life music. And wanted to know the frequency, to confirm the frequency, whether it was by accident or that's the frequency we were using.
So you mean it was set up to, was it AMSW at the time?
Yes.
Shortwave or?
Shortwave.
Okay, so it was on shortwave, and it could be reached by people
in Australia.
In Australia.
Yeah. But it was broadcasting in Swahili, Portuguese, English, French, and I think Spanish.
You mean GBC?
Yeah, the external service, that was the purpose.
Oh,
it was set up, and you know, because the African is...
We have different languages.
Different languages, so we broadcast in the various languages in Africa. French, Swahili, English, Portuguese, I've forgotten the last one. But in various languages.
All right.
And we had the opportunity to rub shoulders with people like Nyerere. They all passed through, they were broadcasting in Swahili as part of the Freedom Fighters Crusade.
Wow. Okay, so you were a DJ.
Yeah, but yes.
Did you do anything news yourself?
No.
At the time?
No.
Oh, okay. So yours was music and entertainment.
Yeah. We were part of the entertainment section of GBC.
Right.
And we were compiling, apart from presenting record programs ourselves, we were compiling programs for other announcers to present. You select the record, time it, and then write a script for somebody to present it in the various languages.
How many years were you with the GBC?
I was there from 61 to 65.
Okay, so 4 years. And while you were there, any memories that you'd like to share?
Well, I remember one particular memory, that Leo Rabi Williams was organizing a dance band competition or big band competition in Ghana to find out the best band in Ghana. So he went around the country, Kumasi, the northern region didn't have that many bands there, but Citi TV had a band, Broadway band, Kumasi had the Comets band, Stargazers, Pop Hughes and his band. So he organized this competition, and the winner was Broadway Dance Band.
Yeah.
So we had a finale at Broadcaster House, and I was the MC, and it was such an honoring position for me to be MCing. I was young then, and then bebop music, jazz music, was a thing, and the style of the musicians were to wear dark glasses, even in the night. So I wore dark glasses
as well,
and I think I was asked to move them because there were a lot of VVIPs at the function, and they thought it did not fit into the class that were assembled there.
Yeah.
But some of the people I remember in broadcasting, John Hammond, considered the best news reader that Ghana has ever had. Unfortunately, he's passed on. But living today, Robert Owusu, he was known as Bob Robo. And anytime he read the news, he would say, the boy is good, Nara Zonka. So if you meet him anywhere, just say the boy is good. He will respond for you. by the Quentin Asante.
He's been very helpful to us, training us for the last. We just haven't been in touch for some time, but
Bob.
Yes.
Ah, okay.
Yes. When we started Joy FM, he was doing a lot of the news reading training for us. Because actually his son used to be with us, also called Andrew Owusu.
Yeah.
He was a newscaster. Yeah.
And then we have John Owusu, who was a producer for TV series. In fact, he was a producer for the Mike Eghan show.
Oh, nice.
Cobbney Taylor started with me and handed it over to John Owusu, and he was a producer for a long time. I could also remember Joe Kofi, Harriet Attah-Mensah.
That's Joe Tete Kofi?
No, Joe Kofi.
Joe Kofi.
Yeah, Joe. He was a DJ too.
Okay.
Harriet Attah-Mensah.
Auntie Harriet.
The first female disc jockey.
Wow, lovely lady.
Yeah.
What, she was at your book launch, right?
Unfortunately, she couldn't come.
Oh.
Unfortunately, she couldn't come. Who else do I remember? Joe Kofi, I've mentioned. Joe Latte, he's still alive. I think he's getting to his 90s.
Yeah, Joe Latte.
If not more.
Joe Latte is
around. Joe Latte.
Yeah.
And Joe Latte and my late brother worked together. And the story goes that my brother was he was there before Joe Latte.
At GBC.
GBC. So when Joe Latte came, Professor Zadai, who was then the head of the department at that time.
That's sports
and ceremonial commentaries. They combined the two. So my brother set up a program pattern where he was the anchor person, and during the weekend when the football tournament is on, he would be the anchor man in the studio. One person would be the anchor man in the studio, and then he would connect to the radio stations to feed in to the national service for broadcast. And then he started by saying, "Over to you, Joe Latte," and that has become what shall I say, slogan.
Yes.
In Ghana.
Slogan. Over to you, Joe Latte.
Over to you, Joe Latte.
Well, we met it. We didn't know the background, but I'm sure people still say it. Over to you, Joe Latte.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So, who at the time, who was the head of GBC?
David Coleman.
Ghanaian?
He was the first Ghanaian to be made Director General of Broadcasting. He was actually an engineer, but attached to broadcasting. But because he's been there for a longer period, Nkrumah made him the first Ghanaian Director General of Broadcasting.
And when you were broadcasting, were you hosting events?
Yes, we were hosting Radio Dance Time.
No, yourself, yeah, you were.
Yeah, Radio Dance Time. And I would say that perhaps my first break was a series that I did broadcast, playing just high life music. Every Saturday morning at 6:30, at the end of the news, I'll come on with half hour of high life music. And Leo Rabbi Williams, who employed David and I in broadcasting, gave us the freedom to be innovative. And he also gave me the opportunity to travel anywhere that I thought was a good band, to go and record them. So it was not necessarily the commercial records that I was playing.
Okay.
Because of that, I had a lot of audience, because they were listening to different types and songs that have not been on the market.
Remember some of those songs you used to play?
I remember that the signature
the popular ones.
Attah-Mensah.
The one that Ramblers did?
No. No. The Kwanzaa had an Attah-Mensah record.
Okay.
And perhaps one of the most prolific composers was Oscar Maofori. He wrote a lot of songs. Attah-Mensah's All For You is one of them.
That he wrote?
No, I'm not saying that he wrote it, but
okay,
I'm talking about some. All For You was one of the popular songs I used to play.
So this is All For You,
E.T. All For You. I dey wait you, Papa. I dey wait you, Mama. I dey wait you, Papa. Oh, all for you. The young ones don't know this.
I'm telling you.
And interestingly, to mention here, Attah-Mensah was honored and crowned King of High Life in Nigeria before Ghanaians thought about making him anything else.
Oh, really?
Yeah, his Tempos band was given. He used to travel in West Africa to play his music.
Yeah.
And he introduced his style of high life music, which was very popular.
Okay.
So the Nigerians were the first to recognize and crown him as king of high life.
At this time, Nigerians were also playing high life.
But their high life was
different.
Was different.
Okay.
And they preferred the Ghanaian high life to the Nigerian high life.
Right.
And the Nigerian bands that were also playing with Chief Bill Friday, Bobby Benson, and it was Bobby Benson who brought his band to Ghana with Ajax Buchanan. Ajax Buchanan was a bass guitarist or bassist for his band. But after their tour in Ghana, they were here for about 2 months. He said he wouldn't go back to Nigeria, so he stayed in Ghana and joined some of the local bands to play.
Oh, really? So Ajax Buchanan was a musician?
Was a musician.
We grew up knowing that he was a comedian.
No, he was a musician. He used to play and put the bass drum, no, not bass, the bass guitar was a huge thing.
Yeah.
He would play and lie on it and play.
Wow.
He would get a lot of applause for that.
Yeah.
He was a good entertainer, for that matter.
Right.
So it was Bobby Benson. Bobby Benson is a drummer, but he had a Nigerian group that he brought to Ghana to perform, and that was before Fela and others came to Ghana. Yeah. Chief Bill Friday also came to Ghana and played. So these are some of the names that I readily remember.
Then, 65, you left GBC.
Yes. Well, the circumstances that led to my leaving GBC was that my good friend and partner, David Labi, who I mentioned earlier on, had an employment with the Ghana film industry as one of the directors, and was being given a much better salary than we were getting from broadcast.
GBC,
And he was poached by Professor Kofi Awuno, who was then the head of the film industry. And I went to my boss, Mr. George Akrofi, who was then the head of entertainment, music and entertainment, that this is what has happened. My partner and closest friend has left for a better job, and I don't have anywhere to go. But could he do something about my salary so that I would feel comfortable? And he insisted that I should go and do music up to class 4, class 5, before he can do something about it. And I said, but I'm not a musician. I'm a disc jockey, and I've been writing the records pretty well, so why don't you just consider that? And he says, no, the formula and civil service regulations do not allow that kind of promotion, so I should go and study music. Luckily, at that same time, I met a friend, Mr. Futa, Bashiru Futa, who was then one of the executives of VOLTA River Authority, and asked me whether I would like to work with VRA. He knew I was working with broadcasting, but he just passed that on to me casually. But it came at a timely moment. So I said yes, I would. So I applied, and I was offered an appointment with a fairly good salary, plus a lot of fringe benefits. I went back to Mr. Akrofi and discussed with him and showed him the letter of appointment. That, look, here's a letter, evidence that I could leave this job and live maybe more comfortably than I'm living now. And he said, no, study music or forget it. So with that disappointment from broadcasting, I accepted that offer and went to Akosombo to work. And I was given the job of an entertainment manager for the community center,
which is in Akosombo
at the construction site itself. And again, anytime I tell the story, I emphasize that I feel proud that I was part of the construction of the VOLTA Dam. I was there when Nkrumah came and switched the lights on for the first time.
And you were the MC?
Yes, but he didn't come to the dance. We had the dance MC at the community center. The community center had an auditorium that can take about 300 to 400 people, with its own cinema screen, a library, and a restaurant attached to it. And I was in charge of that.
Wow. How many years were you there?
I was there, sadly to say, for just a year. After 60, not even exactly 1, but close to 1 year.
But full of activity.
Full of activity. And one of the things that I introduced there was palm wine time. One afternoon, Sunday, somebody came there with his guitar, uninvited, and started strumming at the bar. And it caught the attention of the few clients that were there. So it struck me that, and I associated guitar music because of my assignment with broadcasting, with palm wine. So I said, why don't I set up a palm wine Sunday with kebab and palm wine, fresh palm wine. And this was Akosombo, close to where you can easily get palm wine. So I advertised that, and it caught on like wildfire. So every Sunday there's a palm wine time. So this is one of the things I introduced there that made me popular, I would say.
Yeah.
Plus the fact that because of the auditorium, I don't know if you remember concert parties.
Yeah, yeah, I do.
Vaudeville people, they paint their faces, and
Yep.
a man would dress like a woman and change his voice to a feminine level and perform.
I'm trying to remember some of those names then.
Axim Trio, Disco Trio, and a few others.
Yeah, yeah.
So every week or every fortnight, I would arrange for one of the groups to come and perform, and they were loved by the Ghanaian populace there.
Yeah. Some of the people you met at VRA still around?
Frank Apiaje is still around. I can
Uncle Frank. Yeah, he's very active, very, very active.
Yeah.
So is he older than you?
I am not sure.
Okay.
Maybe he is.
Well, definitely in his 80s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was there before I arrived.
Oh.
He was the public relations officer for VRA.
Uncle Frank, he's been everywhere, man.
Yeah.
And he was also very active with entertainment. Well, he even owned a disco at some point.
Yeah, he had a disco that has now been turned into something, an educational center. I think they're teaching French language there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
And he has a hotel too.
Yeah, he has.
At the
Asylum
Down area.
Yeah, that's correct.
He's a good friend.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Well, we'll send your regards, because he's one of the people we are talking to.
Okay, give him my regards.
We'll do.
And he's one of those who helped me to settle down comfortably in
Akosombo.
Yeah.
Wow. So those were the days in Akosombo. And so at this point, you were out of broadcasting.
Yes. But I was still hosting a program called In Town.
At GBC?
At GBC, where people who are making news in town were interviewed.
So you're moving from Accra to Akosombo?
I was living in Akosombo, but every week, GBC would send one of their vehicles, known as Ponkwa Bodam.
Yes.
They were imported Russian vehicles.
Yeah, those ones. Yeah. Very ugly cars.
Yeah, but very powerful.
Yeah, strong.
Yeah. Okay.
So you left GBC, went to VRA, and
after 1 year, I left for United Kingdom.
Okay. Why did you leave?
Because I felt that I could broaden my horizon and improve my quality of broadcasting if I went and had some attachment with BBC.
So you were out of GBC, but your heart was still in broadcasting.
Indeed, it was.
So that would motivate you to want to go to the UK. But
and
how sure were you?
I was sure because Peter Myers, who I mentioned earlier, had gone to BBC and was doing very well. And Peter Myers was the one who tutored myself and David in the basic broadcasting.
Right.
I remember quite well Peter Myers would put us in the studio and ask us to read a script.
Peter Myers, a Ghana person.
He is from Mauritius.
Oh, okay.
But he came to Ghana with his parents. And the parents left, but he stayed on in Ghana and got a job in broadcasting. He's not a trained broadcaster, but he's so talented and colorful that he could do a lot of things in broadcasting. He had left GBC and gone to BBC and started a new series called Good Morning Africa, which gave birth to Focus in Africa.
Focus on Africa, yeah.
Yeah. And I knew because he was there, if I got there, he could help me also get some attachment. I went to Britain in '66 in May. Went, and Peter knew I was coming because I had written to him. And I told him.
Were you trying to give up on Ghana because Nkrumah had been chucked out?
Not necessarily. That's part of it. But I also thought that if I want to continue to broadcast, I should be able to improve the quality of broadcasting and the standard. So I tried. I would say that I took a chance, and it was tough from the beginning, but I'm glad I did. I went to London, met with Peter Myers, and said, I've come to do what you were doing, to see.
Tell me about your journey to London.
It was easy in those days.
You flew by
Yes.
ship?
I went by plane, and it was 300 cedis.
At the time?
Return ticket.
But that was big.
That's 30 cedis of today.
Well, but the value of that money, I mean, that 300 cedis was somebody's 3 months' salary.
Yeah, I think VRA was paying me good money, so I managed to save.
Wow.
So I went, and as I said, it cost me 300 cedis return ticket.
Apart from Peter Myers, did you have relatives that you were looking at?
No, I had another friend there who could also help, called Kingsley Obin. Unfortunately, he's also passed on.
Okay, so you wrote to them?
I wrote to them to expect me, and they welcomed me in London. Peter Myers said, come and spend the night with me in my house. Tomorrow morning we'll go to Bush House, and I would introduce you to some producers.
So your arrival in London for the first time?
Yes.
Where did you, Heathrow at the time?
Heathrow. Heathrow. And my friend Kingsley Obing that I mentioned was the one who hosted me. He
Where?
gave me in London, Golders Green.
Okay, right in the heart
of the Jews.
Yes.
So I went to London. Kingsley welcomed me and gave me a place to stay in his house. And the next morning I went with Peter Myers to Broadcasting House. He introduced me to some producer. And he interviewed me in Good Morning Africa. And that was the end of whatever I expected him to do. He didn't do anything again for me, which disappointed me, but I couldn't blame him either.
Yeah.
So every morning I'll go to Bush House and buy the newspaper Mirror.
So let me take my time here. So now you have resigned from the VRA.
Unfortunately, I did not resign from VRA.
You absconded?
Yes. That is the most appropriate word to use. I took leave of absence.
That's it?
Yeah. Knowing that I wasn't going to come back.
Because it was too difficult for you to do a formal resignation.
Yeah, that's right.
Knowing the circumstance at the time.
That's right. That's right.
Wow. Anyway, so hey, you are watching Footprints. This is Citi TV, and the man that you've been listening to is Uncle Mike Eghan. Look, I can say that it's the biggest name that we've had in broadcasting in Ghana from then till now. I have been lucky to be in this industry for the last 25 years. I still haven't seen anyone who has achieved much more than that and impacted, you know. So this is where we are. We'll take a short break, and when we come back, we'll look at his days at the BBC. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the program, and this is Footprints. I'm talking to Mike Eghan. So Mike Eghan, as you now know, has been the real definition of the Ghanaian broadcaster. Entertainment of all sorts, hosting events, emceeing events, and crisscrossing the country. But now he's left Ghana and then trying to enter the BBC. And that was a difficult one, Uncle Mike.
It was indeed. As I said a little while ago, Peter Myers was my main contact. Indeed, I went to Broadcasting Bush House with him. The following day, that I spent the night with him in his house. He took me to BBC, introduced me to some producers, and then got me interviewed by he himself on his Good Morning Africa program. After that, nothing was happening. Every morning I'll go to Bush House, take the newspaper, sit down in a corner, and be reading it. And I did that for maybe 2.5 months. Luckily,
how were you taking care of yourself?
The little savings that I made was in Ghana.
Wow.
But it paid off at the end of the day. So one morning, I was sitting there when someone walked to me and said, may I know, I am Bill Everingham. I'm the head of African Service. I've been seeing you here every day, and who are you and what do you want? And I thought that was a golden opportunity for me.
Did Peter Myers know that you were coming there every day?
He knew.
But he was helpless?
Yes.
Good.
I don't think he had the powers to employ me.
You weren't. Yeah.
He was an artist himself as a guest, so he couldn't do anything. The only thing he could do was to interview me. So Mr. Abraham asked me about me, and I thought that was a golden opportunity for me to pour my heart out to him. Told him who I am, what I've done, and what I wanted, and my goal. He said, okay, I'll see what I can do. The next moment, he brought a gentleman to where I was sitting called Mr. Tony Cox, who was head of entertainment on the African Service Network. So I had a chat with him, gave him the same lowdown of who I am and all that, my experience as a disc jockey in Ghana. And he asked me if I could do a series of programs playing just African music. And I said I could. So okay, then give me a script to that effect. So I went and wrote a script, which he said it's okay, but we need to do a pilot program. So he helped me select the records that I have listed. And I did a pilot, which he went and presented to a panel, and they accepted it. But he said that, yes, the program was okay, but you need to improve your script writing and your diction and pronunciation. So I would arrange for you to go to the BBC training school.
Just like that?
Yes.
And you didn't have to pay for it?
I didn't have to pay for it.
You were meant to be there.
That's why I call it a point of destiny.
I'm telling you.
So he arranged for me to go to the training school where we were taken through script writing. And you are a seasoned journalist, so you know that script writing for radio is not the same as newspaper.
Not at all.
Spoken language is different from written language. So we did that for a couple of weeks. But the experience that made me what I am today was when Mr. Peter Fettis, the director of the training school, gave us a script. We were about 7 from different countries. Nigeria, Sierra Leone, Gambia, and Ghana. So we were each given a script to go and read in the studio. So I went to the studio and I thought I was impressing Mr. Peter Fettis. Put on an accent. I wanted to be more British than the British person himself. So after about a minute and a half, he called me out and said, young man, I've been in broadcasting 35 years. You can't impress me with what you did. You are not being yourself. I can tell this is not you. You have been some. Go back and be yourself.
I'm so quick.
I took a big heave of...
Well, you thought they were going to give you marching orders.
And I went back and tried to be myself.
With your typical Fanti accent.
And I came back, they played the 2 tapes. And he said, which one would you choose? And I chose the one that I was being myself. And he said, yeah, that's how broadcasting is. You must be, don't be like any other person. Because everybody is different, has a different character. After about 3 weeks, he gave me a note and called Mr. Tony Cox and says, the guy you sent to me, I think is ready for broadcast. So Tony Cox made us go back to the studio and started the series Music with an African Beat. I played music from Africa, or music, even if it's European, that has a resemblance of the African beat in it. And I did that program for 4 years. Meanwhile, whilst the program was going on, and my voice was heard on the African service, other producers contacted me to do interviews for them. If they hear that Mr. Attah-Mensah is in town, he's a Ghanaian, they will arrange for me to come and meet with you and discuss, do an interview with you. And that earned me a good amount of money. And I'm happy to say that in the 4 years that I worked there, I was earning good money. At least I was earning something like £300 a week, which was a lot of money then, more than it cost me to be there.
That was a lot.
Yeah. So.
And this was in the 60s, late 60s?
Late 60s,
Wow.
66 to 1970, I was doing that. And through the various interviews that I conducted, I had a chance to interview a lot of dignitaries. I met with Muhammad Ali, interviewed Muhammad Ali.
Wow.
Joe Louis, the Black Bomber. But the first interview that I did was with Johnny Mathis, an American singer. He was performing at London Palladium, one of the biggest entertainment halls in Britain. And the producer, Mr. Tony Cox of the program, arranged for me with the secretary to go and interview him. We planned a series of questions to ask him. And even though I've seen his pictures, I thought he was a white man because of his complexion and his hair. I got then realized he was a black man. His complexion showed that he was a black man. So they welcomed me to the London Palladium. He said, Mr. Mathis has been expecting you. They took me to his dressing room, and he said, you can do the interview after my first session. I'm doing 2 sessions here. After my first session, you can do the interview. So they took me to the hall and asked me what I wanted to drink. I didn't have enough money in my pocket, and I knew London Palladium was a high-notch place. So to avoid any embarrassment, I said, I'm okay. Not even Coca-Cola. I said, I'm okay. So I did the interview with Johnny Mathis much after his second performance. So we finished at about 1 o'clock in the morning. Then I was allowed to do the interview with him. And he was also telling me this is the first time that he's talking to an African from the homeland, been interviewing him for BBC. We talked about Ghana independence and the black man and all that. We did a recording, and he says, would you like, I want to go out to Tiffany, which was the most expensive nightclub in Britain then. I want to go to Tiffany. Would you like to join me? And who wouldn't jump for an opportunity would be rubbing shoulders with a celebrity of his status. So I agreed, and the happy part of the story that was my first ride in a Rolls Royce. My first, and I will say the last, because since then I've never had a ride in a Rolls Royce. So we went out, and I stayed with him till about 5 o'clock in the morning. Then we parted company.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that one, you had arrived.
Indeed. And that is when the Drum magazine, I don't know if you remember, asked their reporter in Britain to do a feature on me. So I had a full 3-page feature with some pictures taken by Mr. James Barner, whose pictures are being advertised in London Gallery.
Wow.
Now.
Wow. So then that would define the highlights of your stay at the BBC. And while there, you met other Ghanaians.
Yes.
Who had come from different parts of the world.
Yes. I met a guy called Williams. I met, the names don't come now.
But I'm told that the Hausa service in particular had people from Ghana.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
He was with GBC with me before I left, but he came much later. He came at the time that I was exiting.
Right, right.
He's called Mohammed something. Yes.
Okay.
I remember him.
Super. Okay, so BBC, you were drawn into the English lifestyle too, because we hear that when you came back finally, you were a lot more westernized than before.
Well, there's
in many ways.
The description could be apt. But again, still with BBC, after the training school and I started the series, they could not define my accent, whether it is British
or Ghanaian
or American. So they said the man with the transatlantic voice.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So that was the title that was given to me, that the man with the transatlantic voice.
Yeah. It looks like things were happening by chance, but you were very deliberate with what you wanted to achieve.
Yes, I got attracted and got, what shall I say, addicted to radio and broadcasting to the point that I would sacrifice anything to do broadcasting.
Wow. And
I can say with all humility that it's brought me pretty far in my life.
Oh, yes.
Brought me pretty far.
Because you did it so well. I think that's the difference.
Well, I think that I take that from my father, that if you feel committed to something and devote time to it, you will achieve your goal.
Okay, so did you resign from the BBC or the...
No, BBC did not employ... BBC did not employ me. I was just a guest artist.
Okay.
But because of my performance, I got regular jobs.
Okay.
One of the highlights of my stay with BBC was when I was given the opportunity to interview Attah-Mensah, who was then the manager for the English team, the only team after so many years and still haven't won the World Cup.
Wow.
But that was the year that the British team won the World Cup, 66th one. So the producer for the sports program on the World Service called me and said, I would like you to help me interview Attah-Mensah. He hadn't been knighted then. He was knighted after he's won the World Cup. So we agreed and said, Attah-Mensah wants to come to the studio himself. So you please come to BBC studio and meet with him and do the interview. I did the interview, pardon me. The interview must have lasted for 15, 20 minutes. But the star question was about Pelé, the Brazilian footballer. He was then the star of the world football. And because of his style and skills, he was so physically and brutally tackled, I should say, that he was taken off, he was stretchered off the pitch in the first match that the Brazilians played. I've forgotten which team they played against. So in my interview with Attah-Mensah, I asked him, could you tell me, now that Pelé has been butchered out of the tournament, who is going to be the star for the World Cup? And I think that the word butchered resonated with the audience and the producers. So for the first time in my life, I was being heard on the home service of the BBC.
Okay.
And it was played over and over again.
Oh, yes.
So for me, that was, and that also caused a lot of producers to want to ask me to do interviews for them. Early part of 1970, Mr. Eric Ajelolo, who was then the Deputy Director of Broadcasting, came to Britain to interview people that GBC wanted to employ. And I was one of the people that he interviewed because he's heard me on radio and wanted me to come back to impart my experience and knowledge in broadcasting. So I agreed to come back, provided I was given the promise that I would get accommodation. As I said a little while ago, I was earning enough money that I was able to rent a whole house to myself with my family. And I thought accommodation is a major problem. So if I came back to Ghana, GBC should be able to offer me accommodation. He agreed, and in his letter of appointment to me later, he stated that I'll be given accommodation, a flat, a 2-bedroom flat in Broadcasting House. So I accepted the offer and came back to Ghana. And when I arrived, I came by boat, and I spent 1 month on the high waves, high seas to Ghana. I boarded in February. I arrived in Ghana in March.
Wow.
1 whole month. And it was one of the most exciting, most melancholy trips that I've had.
Wow.
It was so serene, you can go for days without seeing land. You can go for a whole week without seeing, and all you see is nice blue colored sea with dolphins flying and diving. It's so serene. And I remember also that I had my birthday on board the plane, on board the ship.
What was the date again?
I think it was, my birthday was 14th of March.
Okay. So 14th of March, while you were in transit, I should say.
Yes, I was on the high seas, I should say. And other interesting aspect is that I didn't come by a passenger boat, I came by a cargo boat. So we were stopping on the west coast of Africa, loading and offloading goods. I came by
How did you come by that?
GBC wanted me to come by boat because I had a lot of luggage yet to carry. So I came by boat.
So you finally arrived in Ghana?
So I arrived in Ghana and went to Broadcasting House to show them my letter of appointment. And that was the time that Professor Busia had sacked 586, Apollo 586. Is it 586 or 568?
One of them.
One of them.
Yeah. I was too young to even remember.
So Ajelolo was a victim of the sacking of the Apollo 568.
Oh.
So nobody knew about my appointment, or they would not accept that I have been given any appointment because they were afraid that he's been sacked. How do we take his letter to be valid enough to employ him? But after a bit of a tussle, they accepted and showed me that I would be working with GBC2, the Commercial Service of Broadcasting, which had been established 2 years before I arrived.
Right. Good. So now you're back with GBC.
Yeah. And I was taken to GBC, the commercial department, and asked to given an office to start working. So I had to dream up what programs I could do and how to present them. And I think one of the programs I was presenting was jazz music, which I knew a little bit more about it, high life music. And then Leo Rabbi Williams had a program called the Bandstand, where he brought a band to the studio and recorded them, and they played different genre of music, high life, waltz, quick step, mambo jumbo, and the rest of them.
Oh, so 1970, 1971, thereabouts, you are taking off your second coming to the GBC.
Yes.
At this point, I'm sure you came and found that there were new faces there as well.
Yes. Well, there were new faces and younger people. George Crabb is also retired. He's one of them. Robert Owusu was still there. John Hammond was still there. Genevieve Nylander, she's also passed on. May she rest in peace. Vida Qurantin Asante, they were all there. And Joe Latte was still there. There was Nianum Thompson.
Gertrude Opariado was still there.
Gertrude Opariado was there. I think she came in a little later.
Later, okay.
But she was there in the 70s as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. All right. So it's Mike Eghan you're listening to now, and the program is Footprints. We're taking another break. When we come back, we'll now look at what happened after